It is Ask the Mayor time on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan as we talk about city business here as we move through October. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed right away, revamped website of the city. It looks
Yes.
nice. It looks very good.
Yes. You know, and that's something you need to do every so often.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think just like most people when they redo websites, I'm sure that they've kept track over the last couple of years what things people can't find and can find, and what's the most important with the with the algorithms and the history. And so it is an opportunity to redo the website, and I think they've done a good job.
Still very functional, easy to use, seems like, to get
Yep.
to what you want to learn about a department or know about a meeting coming up or some issue
Right.
or maybe a street closing or something like that. Pretty easy.
Yep, and I think Amanda and everybody did a good job, and I think one of the things that you have with everyone, time you revamp a website, you probably had some times when people were looking for things and you just couldn't quite find them, and part of that is just going through the process of revamping the website and redesign. You're going to have a page or two that isn't accessible for a period of time.
We're in a different era. A few years ago, social media wasn't even a thing, but now Facebook and Instagram and all that, and there's a lot of ways to find out things, and it is a pretty quick way in terms of, I know your street department uses it pretty often to say, hey, this section of street's going to be closed from
Right.
this date to that date, and it's a good way to keep informed.
Well, and it's kind of amazing when you think about where we've been. We had that conversation about the 106 plan, and there's an app that helps design that.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about all the apps that are out there, the garbage trucks have laptop or tablets sitting there, showing where they need to go and pick up, and there's a lot of technology that's rolling around in all the city vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's just a sign of the times.
Yeah. Remember Clean City Week, writing down all the locations? Now that's all computerized, and
Yes.
there's a system that marks which ones have been picked off and which ones are yet to come, and it's pretty amazing.
And if there's an issue there, you take a picture with the tablet, and it's associated with that account. So if a person calls in and wonders why the trash didn't get picked up, Clean City's not for trash, and the picture's right there of what wasn't allowed to get picked up. So it helps keep good record keeping of what we do, and can at least let people know why we didn't do something.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like is when you went through the transition on the website, I was having a tough time getting your agenda off the for the council. But that's my own technology lack.
Well, there were some issues there. That's why it's also posted other places, and quite honestly, those are some of the things that happen as you redesign. And so hopefully we're past that and on to another couple of good years.
There's always a transition time where things are interrupted for a little bit. So,
Yep.
Speaking of interruptions, kind of a sad thing because I know some people utilized it and it was convenient simply from a location standpoint, but the recycling location next to the city auditorium no longer in use.
No, we will continue to take a look at how we can implement recycling into the city of Beatrice. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, when you set up, the recycling trailers and you have somebody who continues to misuse them, which actually can cause some health risks to our employees, we don't have much choice but to close it and step back and figure out what is the best option for recycling. I mean, it's not like we understand recycling is important to a lot of people. We understand that there are ways to do recycling. Now it's a way to try to figure out how do we move forward with recycling, and what form does that look like, and how do whatever we put in place, how do we protect having, well, for lack of a better word, butchered animal parts in the cardboard boxes. It just, first of all, it defeats the purpose of recycling because all that has to go to the landfill. And second of all, we have to clean everything up, and it's just not one of those things that we're going to put our employees through. And I think, we tried to make it pretty clear that, first two times, we're going to give it one more shot. And unfortunately, it was just as bad or worse this last time.
Do you know offhand if there's been any progress finding who's responsible for it? Or no?
I'm sure that they're trying to investigate that. I don't know the answer to that. I just can't imagine why somebody would do that either. Right? It's just not one of those things that you think should even begin to happen.
Since it was closed, of course, the city has another option. You can do curbside recycling.
Correct.
At a monthly charge, I think it's $8.50 or something like that.
Yeah, there's a monthly charge, and I think those are some of the things that we have to sort through over the next 6 months. Is how do we leverage the recycling program that we do have? I know that there's been some small changes made there. I know that the containers they have for recycling now are bigger. And I know that they're ones that can fit into the truck with the arms, and so we can make recycling a little more efficient for the city of Beatrice. So there will be some opportunities for recycling. The question is, how do we do it, and at what cost do we do it at?
Yeah. Many years ago, the discussion was, do you mandate recycling? And that was a no-go at the time.
That's a tough thing because some of us don't recycle and others do. So I think those are all things that are going to have to be looked at, and I think it's just going to take some time.
It's unfortunate that this was a free service. I mean,
Correct.
There's no cost. I mean, other than to use your own fuel to get down there and take your items in. But,
right. And at the end of the day, it was a service that we provided, and I can tell you that recycling, at least at this day and age, doesn't make money. It wasn't one that we were actually just providing it as a service, knowing that we're going to have some loss. And sometimes it's really difficult. Sometimes cardboard, you have to stack a lot of it up before it's worth the price to haul it off and to find the haulers. So there's a lot of issues with recycling that have to be figured out, not only for us, but for other communities as well.
I was asked the other day, and this kind of jogged my memory now, I was asked the other day by a person about, does the city own the old recycling building, what used to be the sanitary garbage building on
Yes.
Caldwell there?
We do.
Yes. Is there any recycling application there, do you think, in terms of taking things there, or is that just... I mean, I know that's a building you could enclose it maybe, or monitor it maybe is slightly better. I don't know. But
I don't know. I mean, those are some things that we'll have to go through and discuss and figure out what the best option is.
Okay.
Hard to tell. I really don't want to make an answer right off the top of my head because I'll get back and I'll go, oh, no, it won't work because of X, Y, and Z. So, yeah.
So it's discussion at the policy level.
Right. It's a discussion at the policy level, and it's also a discussion, we talk about monitoring, those type of things, how much cost you put into a service that you don't know you're not going to make, a profit or even break even on. So, there's a lot of things that you have to look at with, the money that we have for Mars.
Okay. Well, you're soon to acquire, as a city, Stoddard and Cedar School properties. Lincoln and Paddock Lane, I think, come a little bit later due to the auctions that they're doing of surplus equipment there. But that's this coming week to be finalized, or somewhere around there?
I was thinking maybe this week.
This week, okay.
I think, city attorney kind of handles those type of things. So, we're on track to acquire all 4 properties as we work through our agreement with Beatrice Public Schools to redo Lincoln and 33rd Street, which has really been, constructors have done a wonderful job there. They really are. They're moving pretty quick to try to get that wrapped up, maybe by the end of the month. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
It would, yeah.
Yeah.
I drove out there the other day. It's pretty easy to navigate.
Yes. I have not gone through it yet. Since I don't have kids in school, it would have been but someday I'm just going to have to go out there and go through it. But
my first thought was, we're worried about this. I mean, I thought it was pretty easy to get through.
And it's going to move traffic very smoothly through there. Yeah. It's going to be, a really good opportunity to show what can be done with a roundabout in high traffic areas. I mean, I think that's the big thing we always have to remember. There's an application for roundabouts, and there's an application not to have them. And so...
The other thing, too, is I know a little bit of discussion involved, homes that are right next to it and the access there, but it seems like that's all been maintained. I mean, there's an easy way to get onto it. It's doesn't appear to be difficult. But
no, those are things that we tried very hard to take into consideration as we had the company JEO design the roadway. So,
okay. Back on the 2 school properties you are acquiring here this week or early next week, The Stoddard one, of course, there's a developer that is turning part of that into senior housing.
Yes.
You do retain, the south part of that property, if I remember right.
Right. We don't quite have the lines drawn yet, but we're still working with Hoppy. And yeah, there'll be a lot to the south there. Approximately half of that size will be an open lot that can be developed.
Yeah. The one site, Cedar, used to be the preschool. It was Cedar before that,
Right.
Cedar Elementary. Some kind of uncertainty about what that will be used for. Any thoughts on that, since this has been on the table for some time, about what are the potential uses for that property?
Well, I think there's a lot of potential uses. I think right now we probably need to, I think we won't do much with it right now. I think we need to, first of all, evaluate the building itself. Secondly, I think when you are starting a project on the Lincoln property and the Paddock Lane property, we want to see how that gets started. So probably right now the best use, we don't know what that best use is for Cedar. I think as we heard during public forum, there was an idea that maybe a city park, a small city park, and if you look at how we developed the Lincoln school site for housing, I think we put a park there. So I think as we move down the road, I think we'll find the right use, and we want to sit back and make sure we find the right use for Cedar. A lot of ground there, a lot of opportunities there. We just want to make sure it's the right thing for the city of Beatrice and for the west part of the city.
How big will asbestos removal be on these properties? I mean, these are buildings back in the 1950s, so they've been there for a while. But any kind of thought about how extensive that might be?
Well, I think it's going to take some time. Just like every building you tear down that was built in the 50s or 60s, there's asbestos. Most of the asbestos I think you're going to find in that building is probably the tile on the floor. I think there is carpet that went over the tile, so I think the tiles will have to be ripped up. So, is it astronomical? No. Is it going to slow us down? Yes. But it'll take some time. Asbestos is one of those things, that we're going to face in all 4 schools. Asbestos is what we're going to face at a bigger level when we get to Dempster's. So it is one of those things that, there's not very many companies that do it. So, when they come in and give you a price, that's kind of what the price is.
Mayor Bob Morgan with us today on Ask the Mayor, and we'll have more coming up in just a moment. You're listening to Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. A couple of things from the City Council meeting on Monday night, a couple of Beatrice Plus grants. Body looks those over, recommends approval of them, then they come before the council for approval. And, of course, that is funded by voluntary contributions ratepayers make on their bills to help provide some support. One of them, a Beatrice Leadership Class downtown shuffleboard project, and then some money that would help out with the Sertoma Astro Park project. So a couple of nice things there.
Absolutely. I mean, those are going to be nice things for the community. That's what Beatrice Plus is for. Gosh, I don't know how many Beatrice Leadership classes we've had now.
I think it's 18 or 19.
I was going to say, I was thinking 17, 18, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And each year they do a project. And what they wanted to do was do something creative with that small spot downtown between the 2 buildings where we tore down that one building. And, hats off to them. I think that, anything we can do to continue to improve the downtown and bring people to downtown, that's great. So that's where the shuffleboard project came in. And I think that's just really they had some foresight and vision there. So I'm proud of that. And, the chamber has had a very successful leadership program there that continues to thrive. And actually, as you think about it, what each project, each class gives us a project, it helps the community. So
yeah, I think the couple of the more recent ones was the storybook thing on the part of the trail, and then there was also the bike maintenance stations or whatever on by the south part of the trail, close to Dempster in there. So there've been a lot of good ideas.
There has
out
been.
there. So
There have been.
the Sertoma Astro Park project, just as a reminder, there's a pancake feed this Sunday.
That's
at
right.
The Veterans Club or American Legion Club. I think that's 8 to 1, somewhere around there, hours, and that will help provide some support as well for that project.
Yes, I mean, Sertoma does a wonderful job of helping the city of Beatrice, and this project that they have is by, at Astro Park, and I think they've done pretty well. They're partnering with the city so that we can put in new playground equipment there, and the time has gone where you can get monkey bars and a swing and be set up for a park.
Yeah.
And now, rightfully so, you need to, encompass everything so it's safe. Make sure that your walkways to the park are ADA accessible, so we have access to everyone, which is a definite need there. And so they saw the need and they stepped up, and they're having a fundraiser, and we're also helping them out in ways we can, and one of the ways is the Beatrice Plus.
You eat some pancakes on Sunday and
Correct.
Add some money to the till there.
Absolutely.
So that'd be
Yes.
good. Just a quick comment or two regarding, because I think we talked about it last week a little bit too, the 1 and 6 year plan. It's been approved by the City Council, which lays out street plans over the next few years. Years 1 and 2 are the more definite ones. 3 through 6, you kind of put projects in there, but
Right.
scheduling may be changed at whatever time. So,
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I think they've done a good job. I think one of the things that people got the opportunity to kind of see the application that we do use to rate the school or the streets, and I think it's always good to point out that Jason and James go and take a look at those streets before we decide to put them in that first year to make sure they're needed. As I think one of the things that they do is the life of a street that's concrete is 35 years. Some of those streets are going to make 35, some of them are going to make 50, and so it's always good to take a look at those. Those are just statistics that I was kind of amazed at. The other one is asphalt streets that last about 20 years, depending on how you take care of them.
or even 10 years if they're not as thick,
Right.
in terms
Yeah.
of the,
So there's a lot of science in there that you don't think about when you think about roads. You think, oh, okay, they're going to pour the concrete. Well, you don't think about how long it's going to take.
That's the reason you do some of the sealing and armor coating projects too, to
That's right.
sort of extend the life of streets that are still in pretty good shape. So
That's right.
save some money in the long run, I suppose. But,
Well, yeah, for example, asphalt 20 years, if you can armor coat it, first seal it and then armor coat it, you might get 30 or 35 years out of it. So, it's a lot better to be preventative than trying to rip up and replace.
there's kind of a public component of that too, isn't there? Like if a neighborhood says, "Hey, the street I live along is really starting to look bad, and it's seen its better days," that you can always bring that to attention to the engineering office and city street department. They go out and take a look.
Absolutely,
at it.
yeah.
So,
I mean, that's one of the things. It's as many miles of roadways that we have. It's hard to cover all of that. Now, one of the ways that we will continue to improve that whole system is, I talked about the app that we have that kind of helps us judge where we need to look at. The first year, it was 5 years ago, and the first year they actually drove a car that took cameras, and they rate the roads based on what they visually see through the pictures. That car will probably come back sometime in the next 1 or 2 years. And the advantage of that is the first year is the baseline. Now we can see in 5 years from now how things are holding up.
yeah.
And so that's going to be an opportunity for us to continue to build that history online, and will help us even refine and get better at what we do for the first 1 and 2 years.
Another example of technology we were
Absolutely.
talking about earlier, that things have changed and there are new ways to do things. And if you can get another way to look at something along with the manual ways that you have visual observation, that's probably not a bad thing.
No, it isn't. And it just helps them out.
Yeah. We'll be back to wrap up Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan here on this Thursday in just a moment. Back to conclude Ask the Mayor today with Mayor Bob Morgan on our program on KWBE. I got to Monday night, the council approved basically what will be the design of a rural trail that will connect Riverside Park with the Homestead National Historical
Correct.
Park. And I got to looking back, how long this has been discussed, and the best I could come up with, I think the city approved a memorandum back in, I think it was March of 2021, between the Interior Department, State Roads Department, to work on this, to cooperate, basically collaborate on this project. So this has been discussed for, 3-4 years now.
3 or 4
at
years.
least. Maybe even more than that.
Correct. Correct.
You've gotten to the point where the design is now approved by basically the concept of it.
The concept is there.
Still, construction probably not until 2027 or somewhere in there.
Probably
if I
at the
remember right.
earliest.
Yeah.
I think when we talked about the trail that kind of was in the east part of town. I think it took 8 to 10 years before it was finally came to fruition. So there's a lot of, as we say, there's a lot of water that's got to come underneath the bridge.
Yeah. Well, I remember there was an open house or two about when the parties got together and kind of said, here's what we're looking at.
Yep.
Here are 3 or 4 options.
Yep.
3 or 4 cost possibilities.
Correct.
If I remember right. This one, as I understand, takes the least amount of private property that you could, I suppose.
Yes.
More public right-of-way.
Correct. Correct.
South side of the highway. Is that still
yes, it crosses the highway and goes down the south side.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
One of the things, if I remember right on the project, there were some stream crossings I think you have to go through. I was thinking there was maybe 2 or 3 of those, or
there certainly may be. I also know that there was going to be a bridge that was going to be replaced, and I think after visiting with the Nebraska Department of Roads, when that bridge is replaced, a bike part of that bridge will have a bike trail across it, so that will help.
What will be the impact of it, the project, if it is built, completed, as just from, say, a quality of life standpoint, or one of the things you offer as an amenity in this area?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, there's not very many communities that have a national park within roughly 4 miles of the city of Beatrice that works very well and partners with the city of Beatrice. So, it does give more people some healthy ways to access the park between walking and biking. And I think, just like we had, what was it, last weekend or the weekend before, there was a bicycle, association or group that came down and biked down, stayed at Chautauqua Park, and then, went out the next day. I think you're going to see some people coming and staying and exploring the trails that we have because, things kind of ebb and flow, but I've seen over the last 2, 3, 5 years, there's been a really strong resurgence in people that want to bike and want to have a trail and they want to have a destination. And so this gives them a high-quality destination from the city of Beatrice and may encourage some people to enjoy the city of Beatrice and the trails that we have. And, I know there's always heartache because when you put in a trail or you put in a street, it does disrupt some people. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be a good opportunity, though, for everyone to enjoy another access point to a national park.
Transportation alternatives, too. That was a discussion many, many years ago. It's not all about streets and highways all the time. You want to get people out so they can use other modes of getting from one point to another.
That is true.
So not just the enjoyment factor of it, but an access factor, too.
Yes. Okay.
Before we wrap up today, just 3 minutes, maybe just talk a little bit about it. And I know, we all know social media. We know, governments face a lot of criticism and a lot of questioning of motives, and which is okay. People, obviously, they have every right to express their opinion. They have a First Amendment right. But more and more, and I think maybe this happened more at the national level than it has locally, but you see more of this sort of personal attack type thing and name-calling and, questioning people's motives and things like that about what government does. And I guess as a government official, as a elected mayor, do you pay much attention to that? Do you have to counter any of it? Because sometimes stuff that's said is just not accurate, for one thing.
No,
but it's still, people have a right to their opinion on things. But any thoughts on that in your first term as mayor? You've been on the council too, and probably saw some of this. But,
well, I think the first thing that I'd have to tell you was unexpected of what I would see, and comments of people make that aren't even close to true. But if it's true in their mind, according to the First Amendment, then they're just expressing their opinion. I think at the end of the day, you look at that and you look for some of the things that have been written, how ludicrous they are. You just kind of go, huh, and you move on. You at some point in time, you can sit there and you can kind of maybe defend yourself, but when you look at the end of the day, I always try to go by what is the best for the whole city of Beatrice. And as long as we're making progress, we're making the right decisions. I know, I guess I was a little naive, but now I know as we make decisions on maybe a trail to Homestead National Park, you're going to have some flack because it does affect a segment of people. But at the end of the day, and by the way, I've been told I say that too much, so I got to quit saying that.
That's all right. Hey, we all have our little habits.
Yeah, we do. But really, we have to keep in mind that if we can try to do the best thing for the city, when we look at what the goals were from running the campaign of trying to do downtown revitalization, how to take care of dumpsters, how to improve some important things such as housing, how to figure out how to take care of the recycling issues that we have. There's a lot of big, what I want to say, policy and procedure ideas of what the city council and the mayor have to do, and that's where it's at. I think some of the things that kind of get weighed down in that is there's always going to be maybe a neighbor-to-neighbor conflict. And those are a neighbor-to-neighbor conflict. Those aren't something that's going to be addressed at the city council. They're not going to be addressed by the mayor. We have an active city that moves forward to try to take care of those things, and sometimes those arguments are realistic, sometimes they're unrealistic. And so I think at the end of the day, which I said again, at the end of the day, we can only do what we can that's going to be the best for the community. And I truly think that if you look at the majority of the people in the city of Beatrice, I think they've been pleased with the progress we've made in the last 2 years, or even the last, 3 terms as mayors, and city council. And I think we're just going to try to continue to move forward and do the right thing. And when we know we do the right thing, sometimes we're going to get criticized. Sometimes we're going to get berated a little bit at public forum, but we're going to move forward and do the right thing for the majority of the people.
One last part of that topic, and this comes from, as a reporter, having covered several city councils, mayors over the years, 7 administrations or whatever it's been. One thing that I've seen repeatedly happen, and the trail's one example, like the one between the city and the Homestead, is that you'll have discussion on issues that'll take place over a 3, 4, or 5 year time period, and you'll finally reach that point where, we're making some progress on this. We can do this now, or we can advance this proposal. And most of that 3 or 4 years, you don't hear anything. And then at the last moment, it's, well, you didn't tell me about this. I didn't know this was happening. That's been kind of frustrating because I know, one, it's not true.
Right.
I mean, it's obviously not true if you've been talking about it for 3, 4, 5 years, but how do you counteract that, or do you even try?
Well, I don't know how you would counteract that. I really don't. I think you just have to say what is the right thing for the majority, and that's the hard part. I mean, sometimes you get into a lot of philosophical tendencies here, but you've got to look what is probably the best for the majority of the people in the city. And there's a lot of different sides, and I think the one thing you have to do is be true to why you ran, and that was to improve the quality of life for everybody in the city. Everybody's too broad of a statement, but for the majority.
And the thing to remember is none of us will be around forever, so other people will get to enjoy what's developed.
Absolutely. I've said before, a lot of this is setting us up with a plan for where we're going to be in 20 or 50 years from now, not 3 years from now.
All right. Mayor, thanks for being with us, and thanks for handling that topic at the end.
Not a problem. Thank you.